Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well, and next week is half term, so I actually wanted to make this quick video just to go through some of the questions that a lot of students have about how should I revise during the half term, what should I focus on, what should my first steps be. So I'm just going to cover all of that in my video today. I also want to say thank you for 13,000 followers on my TikTok. Keep following, liking and subscribing, and I'm sure to put out more resources and content out soon. First of all, you have, if it's like a 1 week half term, you technically have about 9 days that you can potentially spread your revision schedule across. So the first thing you want to do in your half term is to actually start with your homework. So you know how the half term is either a week or 2 weeks, but if you count the weekends either side of it, a 1 week half term then becomes 9 days. So what you want to do is that weekend before the Monday of your half term, you want to use those 2 days to literally smash out all your homework. If you do all your homework during that period, then you will not have to focus on your homework during that half term, the actual Monday to Fridays where you have to do revision material and you can relax. So definitely start with your homework on that weekend and get it all done as quick as possible. I know some teachers like to give projects and presentations. Try and get as much of that done during the weekend so that you don't have to focus on it later on in the week. So with your half term, what you first want to do is go through your class workbook. So your class workbook, that book that your teacher, teaches, and you can write down your notes and do your diagrams and stuff. You want to go through that and look for any topics where you weren't quite sure on what the teacher was talking about. Because when you're in term, you kind of just go with the flow, go to your next lesson, You don't really review or consolidate your work. So take the half term to actually consolidate and look over the classwork that you've done during that term. And this is really, really important to finding out what you don't know. Because if you don't know what you don't know, how are you going to know what you don't know? Exactly. So what you want to do is you're going to take your class book, go through it, make a list. Lists are so important. Make a list of all the topics that you don't understand. And I know there's going to be some students out there that are going to be like, I have everything. I didn't understand everything. Everything's on that list. And that's fine. As long as you have that list, you can start working through them and ticking them off like a checklist. So it's very important that you go through your class book, find out the stuff that you didn't understand during the term time and during from the past term, because more than likely, when you get back to the next term, you're going to be tested on that material. So you want to make sure you understand it. This can also be done with your textbook. I personally don't like revision with my textbook just because I feel like it's so unproductive and it's so inefficient. But the textbook is really good if you want depth of knowledge, not just breadth. You just want depth of knowledge. So it's really good reference material that you can go back to and check, did I understand this topic? Go and check in your textbook whether there's further explanation in it. And it's also good because if you see the contents page of your textbook, it's built kind of like a checklist or specification. So you can go through the topics in your textbook and see, is this topic I need to, revise more, go through again. So that's another good way, to find out what you don't know. So going through your class book and going through your textbook. I also want to give a big shout out to the specification. As you know, I live and breathe by the specification. Everything you ever need to know for a topic will be in the specification, and I can't drill this into students' heads enough. I've tutored so many students over the past 5 years, and I'm telling you, it's the specification that you need to know. If you know everything on that list called the specification, you're going to be just fine. So now you've gone through your textbook, you've gone through your classwork, you've gone through the specification, and you've made a list of all the things you don't understand. What you want to do with that list is identify the hardest topics on that list that I need to prioritize this, and B, topics that might be appearing in the test that you have in the next term. Because as you know, we're in a pandemic, exams are cancelled, so we're going to be having teacher assessments. So you want to make sure everything that you learned in the past term, you understand, and those are going to be your high priority topics. So you have a list, a worst case scenario of 30 topics. You're going to prioritize maybe 2 or 3 of those topics per subject, and by prioritizing those topics, this can now help you to build your revision schedule, which is my next tip. Doing a revision schedule is important, but a revision schedule actually didn't really work for me, and I'll tell you why. I really struggled with motivation. When I was doing my GCSEs and especially my A levels, I just could not get myself motivated, to go and study. I enjoyed studying, but to get out of my bed or just stop watching TV to go and study, I didn't want to do that. I didn't like it, didn't want to do it. So by having a revision schedule, it was just a reminder of the things that I hadn't done that day. And the problem with the revision schedule is you miss the work you have to do on a Monday. That means on Tuesday you have double the amount of work you have to do, which demotivated me more, which means I didn't want to work on a Tuesday. Then it came to Wednesday and I have triple the amount of work I needed to do. So it was just literally like a domino effect. It just did not work for me at all. So what I started doing was, instead of a revision schedule, I made a revision list. And on that list, it was all the topics that I would have put in a schedule, for example, except I just didn't assign a time to it. And that meant that I didn't feel like I was like almost claustrophobic, like, between 2 to 3, I have to study this. Because especially when I was doing my A-levels and even my GCSEs, you put a topic on the list, let's say photosynthesis, and you're like, yeah, allocate 1 hour to it. Like 45 minutes in, you realise I need like 3 hours to go through this topic. And now that kind of, messes up your whole revision schedule for the rest of the day and rest of the week. So I definitely would recommend making like a revision list. It's basically all the things that you would put into a schedule, but you make it into a list instead. I know a lot of students out there do prefer revision schedules, and honestly, do what works for you, but this is an alternative for students that don't really prefer that style of study. Now, the half term is the time that you need to get organized. Organization. So what you need to do is you need to get your folders, get your workbooks, get your notes in order. So important. I won't lie, GCSEs and A-levels are hard. They're not easy. I know a lot of students do struggle with them, but by studying smart, you can increase productivity and efficiency. And through that, that's how I was able to study maybe 2 hours a day. Instead of, I knew students that were cramming like 6-7 hours of revision in a day on a weekday. On a weekend, fair enough, I did like maybe 8 hours of revision on a weekend. But on a weekday, you come back from school, it's already, well, I said come back, we're in virtual learning environment, but you finish school at 3 o'clock. No one wants to stud like staying on screen for extra 2 hours. It's just unfeasible. Yeah, so getting organized is key. So if you have folders, making sure you have your plastic wallets, having everything in a chronological order by the specification, like I said, and this will definitely make everything a lot easier when it gets to exam time. I think one thing I always tell students is that, 5 minutes of work today will save you literally an hour of work when it gets closer to exam time. And that is no exaggeration. Ask any GCSE or A-level student. Because, you get to close to the exam time and you're like, oh, why did I not sort that out in year 9 or in year 10? Why did I not sort out my materials last week when I just did the topic? So just take that extra time in the half term to collate everything, put them in a nice logical order, then take your next steps in your revision schedule. So the half term is also the time when you want to catch up. Catching up with work, catching up with studying, catching up with revision. I know, I'm literally getting flashbacks to my half terms when I was in secondary school. It was a lot of cramming in work that I know I should have done during the term. So definitely take the half term as, a time to catch up with any work that you need to do. And this will vary per subject. Like, for example, subjects like maths and English, I was great at. I loved maths, I loved English, so I didn't really have to do a lot of catching up on. But subjects like French, subjects like chemistry and physics, I had so much catching up to do because, especially physics, when I was in GCSE, I did not understand anything. So I took that half term, especially to focus on the subjects that I really struggled with. And this is what really helped me, especially when it came close to exam time. Now, if you're one of those students that has been, catching up with work during the term time, all your books are in order, all your revision materials in order, I know there's a few of you out there, take the half term as a time to get ahead. So definitely, start looking at specification. What's going to be next in this term? What are you going to be learning next? It might even be a great idea for you to email your teacher just to find out, what topics are we going to be studying next term, so that you already have that pre-knowledge. In terms of getting ahead, one thing I always recommend is to get like a little bit of a background knowledge on the topic. I think that always helps when you go into class and you already kind of know what the topic is about, what kind of keywords are going to be coming up. So I'll definitely recommend that if you're wanting to get ahead. One thing I always like to do is just read the revision guide. So for example, if I knew we're going to be studying the heart next term, what I used to do is I'll go into my revision guide and just read the first page of the revision guide on that topic. That's all I will need to do, just to give me myself that background knowledge. Because the worst thing is to try and make revision notes based on a topic that you haven't already learned. There are going to be some students out there that can teach themselves, and I do commend you. I had to teach myself a lot of the content in subjects that I didn't understand, and when my teachers were a bit, weren't the best, let's just say that. So I did have to teach myself a lot of content, but I know how hard it can be, especially if you don't understand that content yourself. So now you have your revision schedule or your revision list that you need to study for the next 5 days. What you're going to start to do now is learn that stuff. So revision can take many forms, students like to study in many different ways. I always struggle to answer exam questions if I didn't understand the background knowledge behind the topic. So what I usually did was I'll start by making revision notes. Right. One thing about revision notes is it can be such an inefficient process if you do not know what you're doing. It can waste so much of your time if you do not know what you're doing. So in terms of revision notes, what you want to do is you want to take the specification, you're going to go through the specification and find the key bullet points that is noted there. I'm going to make your notes based on the specification. I literally have so many notes and resources that I'm going to be sharing with you. If you want access to those notes and access to those resources, keep following me on TikTok, following my Instagram, and subscribing to my YouTube channel. Nearly 1,700 students signed up for my GCSE English poetry cheat booklet. I was so surprised. I thought maybe 10 students were going to sign up. Literally 1,700 people wanted my notes. So I have so much notes to give out for all my subjects. I managed to bag 12 A stars and A's at GCSE. All my notes are still kept intact. All I'm doing now is just updating them for the new specifications so that it works for all students out there and for all exam boards. So after making my revision notes, depending on the subject, I'll either start making flashcards or start doing past questions. So flashcards work particularly well for key terms, vocabulary, definitions, and that sort of thing. And I know a lot of students, back in my day, we used to have to do paper flashcards, can you imagine? But now I'm in university. I'm a university student, by the way, in case anyone didn't know. I'm a third-year university student, and there's some great apps such as Anki and Quizlet that you can use to make these digital flashcards, which literally save your life because you don't have to be walking. I used to have a flashcard folder, and it used to be a pink folder, and I used to walk around with oh my gosh. I used to have that many flashcards, and it was just so impractical. So definitely go and make your flashcards for subjects such as maths, and even after subjects that I did flashcards for, I'll then go do exam papers or exam questions, because that's the best way in learning your content. And I think I might do another separate video on exam technique, because I had to learn a hard lesson in year 10 about, even though I knew the answers, they weren't really translating to my exam papers because I had no exam technique. I definitely learned exam technique throughout, my GCSE, which actually helped me a lot when it came to my exam time, because I knew exactly what the examiners wanted to read, and I didn't waste time faffing around with extra irrelevant pieces of information in my answers. So the next thing I'm going to cover is how you guys are now going to, utilize your time effectively. And I cannot say this enough. I'm pretty sure if you watch any other study YouTubers out there, the Pomodoro technique will save your life. So I did a neuroscience module at university, and if you see the areas of your brain that are engaged when you're doing exercises such as revision and studying, it takes so much brain power to do them. So the Pomodoro technique is great because it allows you to have that set time to take a break. Who doesn't want to take a break? Because sometimes you get so immersed in your work, before you realise it, you've been sitting down for 4 hours and you haven't taken a break, and it's so unproductive. And that's literally so unmotivating as well, because who wants to sit at a desk for 5 hours to do work? And not me, no thank you. So definitely use the Pomodoro technique. I'll take 50 minutes to do my work, and then 10-minute break at the end. 50 minutes, 10-minute break. I'll do 2 cycles, so 2 hours basically. Then I'll take an extended break. Then if I wanted to come back, I'll do another 2 cycles. I always worked in 2 cycles because it's so much more rewarding, so you feel less unmotivated. So the next and very important thing is to know your preferred way of learning. See, I've worked as a tutor for more than 5 years, and I cannot stress this enough. You need to know the best way that works for you. So not all students are going to work by literally watching a YouTube video. Not all students are going to work by making notes. Not all students are going to use flashcards because it might not work for them. So knowing what works for you is so important. There's loads of online tests that you can do to see what type of learner you are. I even actually have a TikTok on this that I've posted. I might link it below, or I'll find a way to put it put it in this video so you can see, all the different types of learners. So the last but most important tip about studying in the half term is to take a break. I can tell you this last term, online learning, it's just been excruciatingly painful. It's not the best for all students. So definitely take this time to take a rest. So definitely take time out, watch a new Netflix series, go for a walk, take the dog for a walk every single day of the week. Do some other activities that's not studying. If you do want to study, try like a study group, for example. Get your friends all together for maybe an hour a day. Get on a Zoom call. Let's do a study revision session. I think that's probably one of the best ways to, just have a little bit of fun. So I hope you found this video useful. You can still sign up to get the GCSE English cheat booklet. I'll put the link down below. I'm still going to be sending out for a couple of weeks. I'm kind of trying to come up with a more efficient system in sending out resources. So I'll get back to you guys with any new methods that I come up with to make it a lot easier. Because I know I had to send out like literally thousands of emails so that students can get their booklet. So I'm going to find a more efficient way to do that. Carry on liking, following and subscribing to all my content. Please follow my Instagram because I'm not going to be sending out any more notifications or new resources that I have via email. I'm going to be posting it all on my Instagram. So if you want to get more content and you want to get more resources, definitely follow my Instagram, which I'll put down below. Remember to subscribe to this video so I can give out more content like this if you find this useful. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.